Set up the live stream. कहाँ आ गया? लाइव स्ट्रीम कैसे सेटअप करते हैं? Dr. Kang, Principal Sir, how are you, sir? Welcome to our discussion. Can you hear us, sir?
Thank you.
Sir, I wanted to introduce you to a very, very bright, inspiring young woman slash student from New York. Her name is Catalina. Catalina, are you connected? Is your audio connected? I think she's still connecting, and sir, she will be the co-moderator with us for the session.
Okay.
She actually works with underprivileged children through the entire time right now in COVID time through online interventions to teach them in New York. So,
Okay.
Catalina, sir, she's on the camera. Camera screen. So do you want to unmute your mic, Catalina, and like say hello to everyone, all the guests, principals, sir, Dr. H.S. Kang, sir.
Hi everyone, my name is Catalina. Nice to meet you. Right now I am in New York in the US, and a little bit about myself is that I am a high school student right now in the US, and I am going to be one of the moderators along with Kavash through this dialogue today. So it's very nice to meet you all, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say. The official meeting will begin at 4:30, I believe, Indian Standard Time. And for me, it will be 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Catalina, thanks for joining in so early. I know waking up is usually early sometimes, difficult for, and our generation is sort of literally, you know, stereotyped for not waking up early enough during the day. So I think you are a good example for both the adults to know that there are young people who wake up early to do productive things, and the other young people that yes, there are young people who wake up to do productive things. So thank you for being that inspiration, Catalina.
Honestly, it's a pleasure to be able to join in today.
And and Catalina, if I'm correct, that Dr. Mintz John has also joined in.
Yes. Good morning, Dr. John. Thank you for joining. I'm glad to see you here. It's early for us here too.
I think her mic is muted. Ma'am's mic is Dr. Mintz John. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can, Dr. John. Keshav, this side, that random voice from the Dias India that's coming. I'm Keshav. I'm so glad to be in your acquaintance on the email today. Thank you for joining in.
It's a pleasure to be here today.
And ma'am, I think Catalina has been such a motivating driving force since the last few hours. We've been working together to set this up, and she in fact said that no, we have to definitely get you on board. So I'm so happy it has all materialized.
Thank you. Really a pleasure.
I thought with your experience through Million Reasons, and especially with the COVID-19, that you would have a lot to say on the topic today.
I'll try.
Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Hello, how are you? I'm very happy to be here. I'm Paola, I'm Catalina's mother, and I'm the keynote speaker.
Hello, and Paola, thank you so much for joining in on behalf of our entire program team, on behalf of the Dialogues team, and I want to introduce you to the principal, sir, the head of the institution for our regional partners here in India, which are hosting the dialogue. That's Dr. H.S. Kang, sir. H.S. Kang, sir, would you like to um, if your audio is working, would you like to welcome our esteemed chief guest, Dr. Paolo Bettelli? If your mic's working, sir. Okay. I think since when their mic works, Paolo, Paolo, there's some very important people that are here with us who are joining in and who are very excited. That's one is Wahid. Wahid will be one of the panelists today.
Hello,
everyone.
hello,
Yeah.
hello.
Is that Kang, sir? Are you
I am audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So if
Okay,
you switch on your video also, it will be great.
Yeah, okay, definitely. Okay, is it okay?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining, especially Ms. Bettelli, keynote speaker, who is holding LLM in international trade and law and working as a diplomat for Cambodian government. He also worked for United Nations as senior economic affair officer. Currently, she is working an independent consultant in the field of international law and environmental law and sustainable development. First of all, I would like to appreciate and thank DIAS and especially Mr. Keshav for organizing and opening this forum for discussion. We came in contact with DIAS through Keshav during this lockdown period to guide and motivate our youth for the various activities. He has conducted many youth-oriented activities, and our students as well as teachers, they were involved in this. As we all know, Agenda 2030 is a commitment to eradicate poverty and achieve sustainable development by 2030 worldwide. Ensuring that no one is left behind, the areas suggested for the development include gender equality, the reduction of inequalities, action to address climate change, and quality of education, among others. What I feel is that school, colleges, universities are the primary institutions for the dissemination of knowledge, a key player in the attainment of these goals. Higher education undoubtedly encourages innovation and develops citizens with a humanistic sense. The role of higher education is usually highlighted in the fourth SDG, which calls for inclusive, equitable, and quality education. Moreover, for this to take place, it is expected that these objectives are addressed across all the various areas of university life, including their training, research, and extension. And all those who make up educational institutions must be involved directly or indirectly in this process. We should ensure skill-oriented courses, encourage our students towards entrepreneurship for the betterment of sustainability future. Education is a human right and a force for sustainable development and peace. Every goal in this 2030 agenda requires education to empower people with knowledge, skill, and values to live in dignity, build their lives, and contribute to the society. Regarding our college, that is Guru Nanak Khalsa College, Yamunanagar, it is in Haryana state of India. We are having 3,000 plus students of various faculties who were involved in various social activities through our progressive management headed by Siddharth Bhupinder Singh Johar of Jamuna Auto Industry and various faculty members. And these students as well as our faculty members were involved in various activities like rainwater harvesting, sewage treatment plant, tree plantation, water recycling, and social awareness for various activities. Today, we are having our faculty members, Dr. R.S. Walia, an eminent in the field of English literature, then Dr. Alok Goel, he is the head and dean of Commerce faculty, then Dr. Amarjit Singh, a renowned environmentalist who was also involved in DICE-sponsored webinar on climate change and its impact on COVID-19 during lockdown on the rate of cloud and changes, climatic changes. Dr. Rameshwar Das, an eminent chemist, and Dr. Neena Puri, microbiologist, and last but not the least, Dr. Rajinder Vora, who is very active in guiding the youth for various placements and guiding them in various fields. They were on the panel for the role of educational institutions in implementation of SDGC. So these teachers, they will motivate our students, and the target through DICE is that we will go to involve 5,000, 50,000 students within 5 years along with other colleges so that we can achieve the target. So DICE are supporting us, and we will be getting benefited from their guidance, and we will motivate our students and the students of state of Haryana to implement this so that we can achieve the target. Basically, what I feel that theoretical knowledge is there, but practicability it is lacking at. We are lacking behind, especially in gender equality. In India, we are having a slogan, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, save girl child and educate girl child. But we have to, in practical, we have to involve all these girls, all these students to guide them. Similarly, regarding environment conditions, ban on polythene, tree plantation, then safeguard of the trees. These are the various aspects so that the students and the youth, they will be involved, they will guide the population, so we can achieve the target by 2030. I hope that today's discussion will be fruitful for all and the youth will be guided in a proper way. I thank you all once again and hope you all will be benefited from our panels. And once again, I congratulate Keshav and his team and the DICE that they are taking this initiative and guiding the youth of our country as well as of the other countries. Thank you so much.
I think, thank you, Dr. Kang. All of this can only be possible when we are all locked down during COVID, in our respective spaces. Only through people like you who's inspiring leadership and trust through these borders and these distances that we can create these collaborations and really work together for these things. And I think this is really where we have the very good sort of context for the keynote, for which I'm going to hand over the next set of proceedings, sir, to our very esteemed my co-moderator, that is Catalina. So Catalina is going to now take the floor, and Catalina, go ahead.
All right, I'm Catalina. Nice to meet everyone. Thank you all for coming to join us today. Thank you, Dr. Kang, for that very, very nice introduction and introduction to our keynote speaker, who is Paola Bettelli. So, Paola Bettelli is an attorney admitted to practice in the New Jersey, New York area, and Bogota, Colombia. She has more than 20 years of experience and has worked in the fields of international law, environmental law, and in sustainable development, as well as working for a diplomat for the Colombian government and as a civil servant in the United Nations. Paola Bettelli, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Catalina. Thank you so much to everyone. I'm very pleased and honored to be here, and I'm very thankful to Mr. Kasha for inviting me to participate in this event and to be able to connect with all of you. I think that I'm amazed to be able to speak with everyone in India. It's a very important country in terms of education and innovation and technology, and it's making very important strides in this direction. So I think that India could be a very influential country in terms of how we head in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. And here I'm speaking in my personal capacity as a committed sustainable development professional who has worked throughout her career in the pursuit of sustainable development and the UN Charter objectives. And I think that it is a very timely initiative to speak about the role of education and of digital technologies in light of how the COVID-19 pandemic has negatively impacted education and challenged the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals all around the world. And so if there was a time to rise to the challenge, it is now. And if we are relying on someone to fix things, it is on us. So I'm very happy to be here and to work with all of you towards this end. And we are all aware that there were serious challenges in both health, social and economic and educational aspects which were posed by the pandemic, and anything that we can jointly offer to fix it or to provide solutions are more than welcome. And I think that we are called to solidarity, compassion and determination and ethical behavior on our part to achieve this. So as I was saying, the pandemic will be embedded in everyone's memories for times to come, and so we have had to rapidly adjust to all of these changes in a very short-term notice, and we've had to become very resourceful, very adaptable, and very resilient. But the good news for countries like India or Colombia, where I originally come from, is that we're developing countries and we're used to overcoming challenges and becoming very resourceful. So I think we have a lot to put on the table and add to the conversation globally. But also another positive aspect of all of this, in my view, is the fact, or an underlining or a silver lining, is the fact that the United Nations is now turning 75, it's the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. And the United Nations has provided us with a roadmap, which is the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, which addresses many of the important and urgent issues that have been highlighted and underscored by the pandemic, such as the right to education, the right to health, and the right to information. So I think that in that context, I would like to underscore, or I would like to make the remarks that I'm going to make regarding education and the role of educational institutions to overcome the pandemic and to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So first I will talk about education and the impact that COVID-19 has had on education. As all of you know, because you're all educators, education plays a critical role since it prepares younger generations for the challenges and opportunities that the future brings. And the future is here. And the COVID pandemic has clearly shown us how collectively unprepared we were to confront this kind of global challenge. And this is why we have to reconsider the purposes and objectives of education and the kinds of skills that need to be developed in the future that we hope is one where we end poverty and hunger, protect the planet from degradation, ensure that people enjoy prosperous lives, and foster peaceful, just, and inclusive societies. So one of the needs that became plainly evident during the pandemic-related lockdowns was our reliance on digital technologies and platforms for continued communication. And it is thanks to the internet and to other digital technologies that many people around the globe were able to continue working, and many students were able to continue with their education. However, this was not the case for everyone. Millions of people and children, particularly in developing countries, do not have access to the internet or to a computer. So this means that during the extended lockdowns, many children did not have access to any form of education. And as a result, not only will they lag behind, but in many cases drop out of school entirely, particularly girls. And this will be a tremendous setback to the eradication of poverty and to the achievement of the other sustainable development goals. Other students had limited access to online education, but because of deficiencies in Wi-Fi connectivity and hardware, because they didn't have the adequate hardware or the inability to purchase updated software, their online participation in education was also limited. And even for students that did have access to all of these technologies, the shift to online learning posed a challenge for many reasons. Once, because they were not familiarized with the online platforms, and secondly, because teachers had to change the dynamics, classroom dynamics, to be able to adapt to this, and also because of time constraints. Not everybody had the money to invest on Zoom so that the children had access to these online possibilities. And so that's why we need to rethink the purpose and means of education and the role of educational institutions in all of this. So my thoughts on, in light of the COVID pandemic, what are the purposes and means of education that need to be reconsidered because they have fallen short of our needs? And those are, the pandemic has clearly shown us that we need to leverage digital technologies to be better prepared for a rapidly changing world and for external shocks such as the pandemic. We need to ensure that all learners at all levels obtain the digital technologies and the means to effectively use these tools. We need to make these technologies accessible and affordable to people all over the globe. And it has also become apparent that education should not only impart knowledge, but also build character in order for youngsters to lead happy and productive lives. And for this to happen, it is necessary to strengthen learners' resilience through critical thinking, adaptability, self-awareness, reflective learning, collaboration, empathy, solidarity, moral compass, and ethical conduct. So what I'm saying here basically is not only should we teach our youth and other learners to use the technologies, but we should use these technologies to reinforce and to teach our students content that will make them more resilient, more adaptable, more self-aware, and more compassionate, so that they become responsible global citizens and so that they can be the masters of their own destiny. So what is the role of educational institutions in light of these purposes, which is not only to enable digital technologies to reach a global audience and to enable learners from all over the globe to continue their education, but also to promote critical, ethical, and resilience and character building skills that will enable them to adapt and confront any external shocks that may come about in the future. So what can educational institutions do to help this? One, they should bridge the digital divide by providing access to digital technologies to underserved communities in their regions or localities. So for many people, especially students in underdeveloped countries, they don't have access to computer or to the internet. There should be facilities that are public, provided by educational institutions, including universities, schools, public libraries, tutoring institutions, and otherwise, that can make these technologies widely accessible to people, so that they don't have to rely on the technologies that are available to them at their home, which may be limited to maybe a cell phone per family in many instances, if at all. So this is one thing. And opening up the access to these technologies through educational institutions is an important aspect to this. Also, we need to reconsider the purposes of education. If the kind of skills that people need to thrive may become rapidly obsolete in a changing world. So what are we teaching our children? Are we teaching them, you know, I don't know, the basic computer skills? Are we teaching them math and chemistry and biology? All of this is well and good. But in a world that we're facing today, we also have to teach them to become very savvy and have a lot of self-discernment and self-awareness to be able to judge what is appropriate information, which are the true or reliable sources of information that are out in the internet. What kind of skills do they need to have to access all of this technology, but also what kind of critical thinking skills do they have to be able to comb through all of the information that is available and accessible to them on the internet, and to find the information that is pertinent and that will help them develop and become a productive and responsible citizens. And so in that regard, the purpose of education has to be to teach students how to learn and how to instill in them a life of a love of lifelong learning, as well as the flexibility and resilience that they need to shift gears on short notice and to adapt easily to external shocks. And this would require education and educational institutions to strengthen students' social, emotional, and ethical learning. And this is not an ethics based on any particular culture or religion, but rather grounded in basic human values such as compassion and solidarity. And compassion refers to cultivating a way of relating to oneself and others and humanity as a whole through kindness, empathy, and concern for others' happiness and suffering. And this is a crucial dimension for critical thinking and for the development of a sense of self-awareness and a sense of responsibility towards others in a global environment. So developing critical thinking and discernment for responsible decision-making is crucial, and especially in a world that is filled with a cacophony of voices and fake news, so that students should be encouraged to use their own critical thinking to investigate topics deeply, using different resources and approaches, and to apply them to their own situations so that they can reach a second level of critical insight where they can connect the knowledge that they have received on the internet to their own lives and develop a critical insight as to where they should go with this. And also developing the skill of attention, because students are now called in different directions through different social media for different things. And it's very difficult for students to focus on what they ought to do and to find the information that is most useful to them. And so all of these multiple media distractions don't help younger generations to develop the focus and determination and discipline to pursue their studies. So I think that developing attention as a skill is something that educational institutions should also be focusing on at this time. And this ties in with the use of digital technologies, because as students have more accessibility to digital technologies, they will have more access to information that can be good or bad, that can be appropriate or inappropriate according to their own social, cultural, and religious backgrounds. And we should provide students with the skills that enable them to choose the right resources according to their, the resources that are grounded in research and that are based on sound information, and also that may be culturally appropriate in their own contexts. So there has to be a right balance between providing access to information and access to digital technologies, while also being sensitive to the social, cultural, and religious contexts where these technologies and resources are being used, while at the same time ensuring that certain human rights such as freedom of speech and access to information are respected. And that's a critical role that educational institutions should play. Harnessing all of these resources from the internet, digital technologies, information, but also making them or tailoring them to the appropriate cultural and social contexts where the students are living and where they have to perform where they have to live out their lives. So another aspect is developing systems thinking and analysis, because while students need to be aware of their own cultural and social and religious backgrounds to be able to use technologies and information in a way that is useful and productive in their own social context, they also have to become global citizens, because this is what technology does. It provides them with access to the global sphere. And this requires them to develop systems thinking and analysis, and requires an understanding of, or a greater awareness of, the interdependence of systems and of their own role, and how they have also a duty, because they have an influence on what is going out or what is going to happen globally through their participation in social media and in social technology platforms. So in this increasingly dynamic and globalized world, both personal success and ethical action require sophisticated appreciation of interdependence, systems, and complexity, and of the role that each individual has to play in this. So just to give an example, the fact that something going viral on the internet, well, something did go viral, and I'm making a joke here, but just to make a point, and that was, COVID-19. But that also makes us understand that anything that you say on the internet, good or bad, may go viral and could have a lasting impact on society at large. So younger generations also need to be made aware of the impact that they will have in the global sphere through the use of technologies, and to make them aware that any contribution that they make should be a positive and productive one. So developing self-awareness and self-reflection are indispensable so that students maintain their sense of belonging and identity according to their social, cultural, racial, and ethnic backgrounds, despite their participation and involvement in an increasingly globalized environment. And all of these skills and competencies combined should lead to increased self-regulation. Students should exert, self-responsibility when accessing these technologies in terms of how they're impacting their own community, but also in how they're impacting the global sphere. And all of these enhanced relationship skills and greater engagement of students in their communities and broader context, including the global one. And the ultimate goal is to empower students to become the masters of their own destiny, as well as responsible and empathetic global citizens. And these are my initial thoughts, and I'm looking forward to what anyone has to say, and any feedback on this. This is not the last word at all. This is just an opening remark to initiate a dialogue and an enrichment of knowledge on all of our parts. So this is where I end, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bettelli, for your introduction today. Actually, your speech was the first to kick off a series of 40 dialogues for the Global Education series. So thank you very much for your remarks. I thought it was very interesting how you brought up that school should build not only academic knowledge in subjects such as biology, chemistry, the regular subjects, but also should build character, because with the changing world, especially a world changing as rapidly as this one with so much development in technology, into digital world, and you have to know so much about how to manage digital technology, that school should really build character to adapt. And the characters that you mentioned, empathy, compassion, resilience, adaptability, I completely agree with your point that schools should build those in addition to all of the regular subjects, because those skills and the ability to have empathy and compassion for others and the ability to adapt to a changing world is really what's going to bring students forward. And as you said, let them be masters of their own destiny. So now that we have concluded your wonderful speech, thank you very much. We'll be moving on to a list of speakers, which will be our speakers for today. Each speaker will speak for approximately 3 minutes, either to reply to the keynote speech or to give their own thoughts and remarks. We will be beginning with Devesh, then moving on to Maria, Margarita, Dr. John, Ermina Johnny, and Dr. Walia. So if Devesh would like to begin with the remarks, that would be very welcome.
Thank you, Catalina.
Devesh, before you just begin your remarks, I think there is one important thing that we also need to do, and we got so carried away. That's my bad. That is the code of conduct. And that is that we want to set out in spirit of a common sort of a value with which we move. So, and Catalina has worked diligently and thoughtfully to sort of give us that code of conduct. And I thought that in the spirit of the intergenerational and the international global leadership, we thought that Catalina would be the right person to set the ground rules or the house rules here. And that is when then she will be inviting you again. So Catalina.
Thank you for the introduction once again. For the code of conduct, because we're operating, yeah, that's one of the main points. So because we're operating on Zoom and obviously we're within our own households, we're very physically separated. What we have to do is whenever someone else is speaking, we have to mute our microphones, because that's honestly the best way to ensure that everyone gets their voice heard and everyone gets the attention that they deserve. So as long as someone else is speaking or you are not participating actively in the conversation, it would be very much appreciated if you would mute your microphone to ensure that we create the best space for the speaker who is speaking to share their thoughts and create a collaborative environment. Next, we ask that everyone be respectful. Obviously, this is a given, but if one is talking, to let them talk, to comment on remarks, to be collaborative, to work together, to bounce off your ideas. We have to remember that this is a collaborative environment. We're here for communication and dialogue. So really, this is a dialogue. We should be speaking with each other. We should be sharing ideas. But in the meantime, while we do that, we have to be respectful of each other. We have to understand that all of us, we're here on the basis of the same values, but we may have different beliefs and different ideas. And we have to respect each other's ideas and not pass some boundaries, or just in general be very respectful of what others believe, just so that we can conduce a very effective conversation. And that should be about everything.
Devesh. Yes.
Thank you, Keshav. Thank you, Catalina. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of you as being the global director for the dialogues. And I would like to say that this is one space which has been created where everyone has come from different ages, different groups, different cultures, and where they're speaking from their own experience, what they have seen at different places which have been happening. So I really see something really coming up from these dialogues, and something which can really let us identify what is the reality which is today, which is not a function of past, and then find out what actions can be taken at that end. And similarly on that end, what is the relevancy of education on those regards, to find out what is relevant today and not which we think which was relevant because of the past. Now, following what I'm supposed to do here is to give a feedback or a reflection on what ma'am said before. I would like to start saying or mentioning about COVID first, about how COVID has done certain things which have shown suffering, but it has also shown human beings what is important and what had always been important. And now, because that change has come, so we have realized how we can still be, and where we were lost in our own desires and ambitions, and where we could not set the basics right, and we were dependent on other ways in which we wanted to take or carry forward things. And so that one realization has always been there, about how now is the time where the world has stopped for a while, or it has not really stopped, but the basics of health have been affected. So people realize what is really important to them. What is this impermanency of nature, that you will grow up and you will die. So now you will realize what is, that technology can be used, that education needs technology and sciences, but what is the purpose behind it? Whether you are making bombs out of it, or you were thinking that we want to go to moon or colonize another planet, or whether we want to understand that the function of living is to living and just passing out, not passing out in a sense of creating more and more, but being here and making it worthwhile for everyone living who will be coming for the next generations to live. So how education today, where I see the role of a lot of institutions, is not only to be separative in their own regard, because till we call them institutions, they're still serving certain people, and the divide is already there. So one point is to at least reach out to those people who really need help and to identify what is to be taught, and then those education or those things happening. I completely agree with ma'am about the point of self-awareness, because the centrality is that institutions, organizations, everything is a label, but at the end it's just human or a self and the mind of a human being. So even if we have knowledge, we have a lot of education which is there, education has always been there, and that has also led to the formation of an atomic bomb, and that has also led us to give guns. So what comes first is the importance, like your destiny, your ambitions, or the ethic, which is the code of life. And first, that recognition of that existence is, it is all about that you, even if you want to create something, the purpose of that creation has to be for existence and not to become something, because you can't really become something. You can keep making medicines, but you haven't been able to beat death. You know, you haven't been able to stop food from perishing. You can extend it, but you haven't been able to recreate. We humans don't really create. We can just reorganize the atomic structure, because there is nothing outside of it. So now to find out how the creation has to be done and for what end. First, if those things are set, and for who. Second thing is that to not do it out of an identity sometimes, because again, those identities come out from a physical reality or a social reality, psychological reality. And then till you are identified with that, you will be only identifying with the people who are within those identities as us. So like you would want to take care of your own child right now in COVID, when if you have one vaccine and you have two children, one your own child and someone who is not your child. So because you have identified with the child right now, your ethic would come out for the child first. You will still create a separation. So this identification that who is to be first served also becomes very important, which shouldn't be a function of institutions and loyalties, which should be a function of being human. That's what I would simply say. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Devesh. I think now we'll be moving on to Maria Margarita, if she's present. Or
hello, everybody. I'm sorry, but I have some problem with the camera. It doesn't work in this moment. I don't know if you can listen to me.
We can. Maria, please go ahead. A very warm welcome to you.